The movie kicks off with Lisa, a woman who's really down in the dumps, chatting with a psychiatrist. She's been stuck in a deep funk ever since her son passed away from cancer. To make things worse, her husband Eric, who should be her rock, is more like a ghost. Always busy with work, off on top-secret missions overseas. You could say their marriage is a bit like a long-distance relationship with extra loneliness. Before she swapped her combat boots for house slippers, Lisa was part of the French Special Forces, kicking butt and taking names on high-risk missions. But losing her son shattered her military-hardened resolve, leaving her a shadow of who she used to be. Eric, meanwhile, is neck-deep in his customs operational division job, which might as well have a family not included warning label. He's so wrapped up in work that Lisa's left dealing with her grief solo, without even a shoulder to cry on. During her session, Lisa recalls meeting Eric during a counterterrorism mission. They teamed up, kicked some bad guy, and 6 months later, she was pregnant. After their son was born, Lisa hung up her military gear, thinking it was time to focus on family life. Talk about timing. Even in the middle of all this gloom, Lisa mentioned she's kind of excited because Eric's finally coming back to France the next day. Meanwhile, in Brazil, Eric is busy picking a fight with some gangsters led by a guy named Pico. Talk about a working vacation. Back in France, Romy, who works at the National Directorate of Intelligence and Customs Investigations, try fitting that on a business card, gets the devastating news that Eric has died. She rushes to tell Lisa, explaining that Eric got caught up in a drug dealer dispute, and now they have to ID his body in Brazil. And just when Lisa thought things couldn't get worse, right? After losing her son and now her husband, Lisa is at her wit's end and decides to check out early by taking a boatload of sleeping pills. But plot twist, these pills turn out to be about as effective as taking candy from a baby. Instead of drifting off, she wakes up the next morning feeling woozy, but definitely not dead. Confused, she realizes her phone is buzzing like crazy, with Romy reminding her they've got a flight to Brazil. Well, that's one way to cancel a one-way trip to the afterlife. The next day, Lisa and Romy land in Rio de Janeiro and head straight to the morgue. Lisa's hit with a wave of despair when she sees Eric's bullet-riddled body. Later, back at the hotel, she digs through Eric's phone memory card and finds a video where someone spills the beans about a pharmaceutical company, VDA, making fake drugs. Lisa starts connecting the dots and figures the sleeping pills she took were probably knockoffs from VDA. Romy tries to ease her mind, saying Eric wasn't investigating this case, but Lisa's not buying it, especially since she found those shady pills at home. They also discover a string of emails from an Interpol agent named Richard, leading them to suspect that Richard might have been playing Big Brother with Eric. The next morning, Romy heads back to France while Lisa decides to stick around in Brazil, determined to uncover the truth about her husband's death. As she clutches a necklace symbolizing the goddess of destruction, she's reminded of something and decides to visit the police station. But the cops are less than helpful, basically saying, "Hey, it's Brazil, we've got a murder every 9 minutes. Get in line." While at the station, Lisa spots a photo of Pico next to Eric's picture and casually pockets it. Later, she rents a sketchy room in a shady area and spots a guy buying drugs from a dealer. She walks right up to him and says, "Hey, I'm in the market for a gun." The guy, probably wondering if she's nuts, takes her to an illegal arms dealer who's pretending to be a tailor. Once Lisa flashes some cash, the dealer's goons bring out a bunch of weapons. But thinking Lisa might be a cop, they jump her. Big mistake. Lisa takes them down and demands to know where Pico is hiding. After getting herself a beat-up car, Lisa starts her own little scavenger hunt for Pico. The locals, scared stiff of him, aren't exactly forthcoming, but eventually, a woman gives her a lead. Lisa tracks him to a nightclub and walks right up to him, casually accusing him of killing her husband before throwing a grenade into the mix. As one does. After taking out Pico's men, Lisa tortures him until he spills the beans that a police chief inspector named Luis Alves ordered the hit on Eric. With that info, Lisa does what any grieving widow would do. She sends Pico on a one-way trip to the afterlife. The next day, Luis Alves gets a call from Pico's number. Thinking nothing of it, he steps out to take the call, not realizing it's Lisa on the other end, using the opportunity to figure out where he lives. The following day, as Luis leaves his apartment, a kid throws dirt at him, leading him into a basement where two other kids trap him in a room soaked in fuel. Before he can even curse them out, Lisa appears, demanding answers about Eric's death. Facing the very real threat of getting roasted, Luis admits he planted drugs and money in Eric's room to make him look like a dirty cop. He also reveals he was paid off by a guy named Arturo Pereira, who runs a shady private security firm. Satisfied, Lisa takes Luis's phone and then lights him up, literally. Later that night, Lisa discovers that Andre Barbosa, the boss of VDA, is one of Arturo's favorite clients. With that juicy tidbit in hand, Lisa gives Arturo a ring, setting up a little meeting. And you can bet it won't be a friendly coffee chat. The next day, Lisa goes undercover as a fancy rich lady and meets up with Arturo like they agreed. She's all, "I need top-tier security for my daughter who's starting school here," and even tosses in that she owns a villa, showing him a picture. But plot twist, it's actually a picture of Eric. Arturo quickly catches on and tries to call his bodyguard, but Lisa's got ninja reflexes and chokes him out before he can even blink. Arturo wakes up tied to a chair with a fishing hook in his throat, attached to the door handle by a line. The setup's like something out of a twisted Home Alone scene. Open the door too wide, and that hook's gonna do some serious damage. Lisa coolly demands that Arturo set up a meet with Barbosa, but Arturo's like, "Sorry, we only email." Still, he spills the beans that he's in charge of keeping an eye on Barbosa's son, Junior, and even hands over a tablet with Junior's details. Lisa takes the tablet and carefully opens the door, leaving Arturo in his new fishy predicament. When the guards rush in, they trigger the trap, and Arturo's tongue gets a painful exit. Meanwhile, Lisa strolls out like it's just another Tuesday, long before anyone realizes the mess she's left behind. Once they're out of town, Lisa drops the bomb. Junior's dad killed her husband, and now it's payback time. She forces Junior to call his dad, but instead of getting Barbosa, they reach his right-hand man. This guy's colder than an ice bath, telling Lisa to go ahead and off Junior. Apparently, Barbosa's been wanting to do it himself. So, Lisa pulls the trigger without even flinching, but she doesn't kill him. Junior then spills that VDA's been cranking out fake drugs, and Lisa's husband was on the verge of blowing the lid off the whole operation. Eric was planning to head back to France and expose everything, which would have taken down Barbosa and his cronies. With this new intel, Lisa orders Junior to take her to the VDA factory. The next day, they roll up to the factory, and Junior, being the big boss's kid, gets them in without a hitch. Lisa quietly sets a bomb in her car before heading inside with Junior. But Roy, a mercenary with a knack for sniffing out trouble, realizes Lisa's the fugitive everyone's hunting. Inside, Junior explains how VDA's been copying serial numbers from the legit drug company FUBC, so every box FEX makes has a counterfeit twin at VDA. He also spills that the villagers, including kids, are being forced to work in the factory under constant surveillance by mercenaries. As they enter the packaging area, a guard who doesn't recognize Junior tries to stop them, but Lisa takes him down without breaking a sweat. They then tell the villagers to scram and start wreaking havoc on the factory. But things go sideways when Junior gets shot, injured. He asks Lisa for a grenade and tells her to get out of there. As she's about to leave, Lisa, thinking about her family, decides to blow up the factory with herself inside. Just as Lisa is about to make the ultimate sacrifice, villagers find her unconscious and drag her back to their village. A shaman takes one look at her and realizes she's pregnant. Cue the plot twist. In a vision, Lisa sees Eric and her son, but it quickly fades, replaced by an image of herself pregnant. When she wakes up, she's initially bummed to be alive, but the shaman drops the pregnancy news, and Lisa has to process that bombshell. A few days later, Lisa's up and about, wandering the village. She finds more of the fake VDA meds and notices that some villagers have developed nasty skin issues, probably from the counterfeit drugs. Concerned, she calls Romy and lays out the whole situation, revealing that she blew up the factory and needs a way out. Romy, thinking Lisa's lost it, doesn't respond until Lisa casually mentions, "Oh, and I'm pregnant, by the way." Meanwhile, Barbossa's in full freak-out mode, ordering his goons to find Lisa ASAP. Romy eventually gets back to Lisa, letting her know they've secured an extraction team that'll arrive in 5 hours. She also mentions that Richard, the Interpol agent who was in touch with Eric, is on his way to the village to escort her. As Roy and his men close in, Richard arrives first and hustles Lisa out of there. Before they leave, Lisa says her goodbyes to Marta and her daughter, who've been looking after her. Just as Lisa and Richard are leaving, Barbossa's men roll into the village and start rounding up the villagers. Roy, reviewing the factory's CCTV footage, spots Marta as the one who brought Lisa to the village and demands she cough up Lisa's location. When Marta stays silent, a villager cruelly separates her from her daughter, forcing Marta to talk. A few hours later, Lisa and Richard reach the extraction point, only to be greeted by sniper fire. Chaos ensues, but the extraction team shows up just in time and takes out the sniper. However, Roy and his men ambush them, leading to a fierce battle. In the middle of it all, Roy sneaks up and kills Richard, then challenges Lisa to a showdown. But Lisa's not having it. She takes Roy down, and soon after, 2 extraction helicopters arrive to whisk her and the remaining French soldiers to safety. Lisa finally makes it back to France and is warmly welcomed by Romy. A few days later, Barbossa is lounging around watching TV when he learns that an international arrest warrant has been issued against him. Before he can react, his bodyguard tries to change the channel, but it's too late. Junior's bodyguard enters the room and, in a jaw-dropping twist, offs Barbossa, keeping his promise to help Lisa. The movie wraps up with Lisa living in a cozy cottage in the middle of a forest with her now teenage daughter. When her daughter asks about her dad's death, Lisa, ever the wise mom, focuses on how he lived instead. Just then, Lisa spots the shadow of her husband smiling at them from outside the window.